welcome to the Brown Skin Girls Network podcast. You're here with the Sister Circle, and I'm Nkiru.
And I'm Jane.
I'm Anya.
And I'm Jane.
So today you guys are joining the Brown Skin Girls Network for episode 11. We are today going to discuss accountability. We're touching on everything about the mindset of being accountable. Ready, steady, go. How do you get yourself prepared? What kind of things do you need to just line up, just have lined up, ready to be accountable, to really take that step? And then what kind of challenges, are we likely to face when we're actually, trying to be accountable? We're actually trying to be intentional with a lot of our plans. So we're going to really just delve into it. Firstly, what does it look like? What kind of mindset do you need to have in order to be accountable?
Well, it's nice to be on video, by the way, guys. This is a change. So just wanted to break the ice a little bit.
Put our lip gloss on for you guys.
Yeah, we have. We've got dressed up and ready to come here. First episode being videoed. But what does it mean to be accountable and to be ready? For me, the two go hand in hand. If you want to be ready, you really need to be accountable, which means that you have to go through some self-evaluation and understand like the strengths and the weaknesses about yourself, and then create a plan and again evaluate that plan as you're going through. Because to be ready and to get to any goal, you do need to have a really kind of good level of self-accountability. And the thing is, none of us are perfect, and we will all make mistakes along the way. But it's about how you are going to recover from these mistakes. And that's the accountability aspect. And also recognizing, okay, I need to put myself into some situations to face some risks and to go through risks. And then again, evaluating that with yourself. So for me, that's probably the way I hold myself to account, and also kind of having a mental list of what it is or who I need to be at this point to be able to achieve that goal.
And one thing you said there was risks. Like, you take those risks, you essentially put yourself in challenges, and that's when you're going to learn the most.
Definitely.
They say you're wisest when you're a chancer, and you're not going to know until you've actually taken that chance and you've taken that risk.
And it's scary.
Yeah.
It's really being accountable is not an easy thing at all to do, and it takes a level of maturity to be able to do that. But to be able to get to that maturity, you have to go through those risks and realize, okay, it's actually okay in the end,
Definitely. What kind of things do you guys do? Try and prepare yourself.
I think for me, okay, naturally, I'm someone that likes to be very organised. I like to have things in, order, and I like processes. That's one of the things I love to do. And I'm also someone who, if, for example, I say I'm going to do something, then generally I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I get that thing done. So holding myself to account is something that, is a high standard for myself all of the time. And I think, so some of the things that I do is say it. First thing I do is say, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then it now becomes real to me. And because I've said it to maybe friends, family, colleagues, I then now have to hold myself to account and then hardly ever rely on someone else, because once I've now made it real, and it's not something in which where everything I will say, but let's say, for example, I have a goal in mind. My first step would be to say it out and tell people, this is what I want to do. And I think that then allows me to then, well, now you've said it, how are you going to achieve this kind of thing? So I'm not necessarily saying it for other people to hold me to account. I'm saying it so that I can then hold myself to account. So that's one of the things that I do. I would just say to people, this is the challenge that I've set for myself. Don't know how I'm going to do it.
She does always come to me like, Jane, I'm doing this. I'm running a marathon. And I'm like, okay. Or she's like, I'm going to lose this much weight. And I'm like, okay. I'm going to open my new firm. Okay. Let's do it. And she executes. She really does.
And so I think that's my hack.
Yeah.
If I say it, then I have to do it now because I've said it out. Whereas the things that I haven't said yet is because I'm not 100% comfortable and ready to do those things yet.
Yeah.
I'm actually the opposite. Whenever I'm doing something, I never ever say it. I'll always write it down. I pray about it. Then I discuss it with my husband first. And I don't tell people because sometimes I don't want people's doubts or their fears to project on me. I don't need anyone's validation or encouragement. When I'm convicted on something, I'm 100% going for it. And that's how I am normally, because a lot of the time as well, you have to understand that your goals maybe too big for the people that you're around. And that might mean you need to change your circle. It's not a negative thing. Maybe you might be the one to introduce the people around you to a new way of thinking. But I tend to know that the biggest things I've done in my life, I haven't actually shared with people. I'm kind of like the surprise factor friend. So, you know, people come and find out, oh my gosh, you did this.
You know what? That's so true, you know.
I don't tell people what I'm doing.
So what do you do then to hold yourself to account? Or
I mean, I'm very self-critical as well.
Okay.
And I'm very, very, the thing with being accountable is you have to have thick skin.
Yes.
And you have to be very real with yourself. And if you can't be real with yourself, who else can be? And I do a lot of journaling, self-reflection, action points. And I go back over them and I review them. And if they're not going well, I give myself grace as well. But at the same time, I'm making sure that I'm accountable. Okay. So every goal I make is time bound, is smart. So I review them, and if I haven't met them, there needs to be a reason why. And I don't keep moving on until I've achieved them. So a lot of the times, if I haven't met something, it means that there's something in my external environment, or maybe God said it's not time yet. And I have to also be accepting of that. So I don't often, if I'm doing something and it's something really, really big, nah, I'm not sharing that.
I get that, man. I'm actually quite similar to that as well, where I'll just be like, I won't always speak on things, but I might drop a gem just to get somebody's view on something. But similar to you, I always hold myself account to the time, because for me, my time is so scarce. So I'm like, I know that 100% of this time is going to be spent. What are you going to be doing or getting out of this? Because the time's not coming back. So I need to know that, okay, I've put in this amount of effort, but I need to get the maximum return for that effort I've put in. So for me, almost every second of everything I do, I almost hold myself to account. Okay, so this has got to be the outcome for this. It sounds ridiculous, and it is just, but for me now, it's just natural. So I actually love it. I think you do probably get endorphins from when you do hit those kind of achievements or targets.
100%.
But even if it's just like, okay, well, you need to relax for at least an hour today. I've set that. I know that I'm going to accomplish that. And when I do, I'm happy. I'm not going to lie. It very rarely happens. But then I know, okay, you need to reflect and work on this. And then my sister's my sounding board. Like, I will go to her for everything. And I'll be like, right, did I do that like wrong? Or do you think, she'll be like, you shouldn't have spoken to Chris like that. That's the one thing she always holds me account to. You shouldn't have spoken to Chris like that. And I'm like, right. So now I know, okay, in terms of, especially in front of people, don't talk to my husband in certain ways. Like throughout the years, she's held me like to account. And I think as well with her, I've seen a certain level of maturity in her, like the development, because at first I was like, I can't really do that. That's my younger sister. She hasn't gone through the things. But actually, it's so useful for me and so useful for her. But my thing for my kind of new technique quite recently is I tell myself, be able to see something that I want to do. So I'll visualize something. So I'll have a vision. I want to be able to see it. I want to be able to do it. And I want to be able to teach it. So if I can see one, do one, teach one, the level of which I'm going to teach has to be at a high standard, and I have to be proud enough to be able to teach that. So if I'm not proud enough of what I've been able to see, do, and teach, then I know I'm not happy in myself, and I'll self-reflect and be like, right, let's go back and let's see what we need to do to improve.
I'm very much like that. If I have a goal, I'm so convicted on that goal that I can actually see it. Like I remember when I was going to get my office building, I went to the place even before I had even one member of staff. And I said to her, you know, I need the costing of this because I'm coming to move into this office. I do everything like I've already got it. That's how I am. You know, if I'm really, and I know that if God's dropped this on my heart, it's because he wants me to have it. So I'm moving, I think, and I'm very intentional in the visions I have for myself, because I know that it didn't come from anywhere. It came from a higher power, it came from a higher source. But it's very important, sorry, Anya, to have a group of people that you do trust. And because you obviously, no man is an island, you don't live in this world in isolation, that even sometimes you do need to, you know, share things with people. So you can't go through everything in life by yourself. You do need like a trusted community of people that you can share things with, or maybe even if it's a business idea that you think, oh, can I tap? You know, I have a mentor, and I'll be like, oh, what do you think about this show? And he would tell me what he thinks about it. But I'm very selective and very discerning about who I share with. So that's
having certain people for certain things as well is really important. There's certain people that you can share kind of the emotions or the family relationships, and other people for other things,
or business or career stuff.
One of the things that I've realized about myself as well now is that I will throw myself into situations because I'm an overthinker, and I will think and I will talk myself out of a situation. And then I don't know if anyone else ever has this feeling, once you've actually achieved that thing that you've thrown yourself into, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, proud of myself, but how did I even do this? Is how I feel a lot of the time. And it's because I think if I sit down and I actually kind of review these risks, I probably wouldn't do them. So for me, it's really important, and very similar to what you were saying. If God has opened a door for me, and I remember my pastor saying this to me, if God has opened a door for you, go through it. Like, even if it's scary. So when I think about the job that I'm in now, I could have easily talked myself out of going for it. Like, very, very easily. If I weighed up, okay, how is this all going to work? And I just went for it, and God made a way through.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And it's so it's, if that door is open, go through it.
If he gives you the vision, he'll
If
give you the
he-
provision.
Yeah, and that's
100%.
exactly what's happened.
100%.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, I mean, if there's people out there that are now like saying, okay, I want the right mindset. What do I need to do to be intentional? How do I now execute my goals? What kind of mindset, what kind of things do they need to start putting in place, or, you know, what do they need to be thinking about?
I think first thing would be confidence in your vision, in what it is that you believe. So going back to what Jane was saying, like, if I'm convicted, there's nobody that's going to steer me off the direction I'm going in. And I think that's really important, because there will be times and instances throughout your journey where you will feel deflated and you will feel like, oh my God, have I made the right decision? And how am I going to continue without this person's support, or without this funding, or without, you know, I've heard so many no's. Even though, for example, I've had visions about this and I prayed, and still it's not happening for me. So I think confidence in yourself to say, no matter what, no matter the situation, no matter how hard it gets for me, I'm going to keep putting myself forward. I'm going to keep betting on myself. And one of the things, maybe in 2019, I started putting myself in, like, outside of my comfort zone. And it was petrifying for me. I remember, like, I was in Abuja, and I was at a conference, and I was only there as a guest, but then they asked me to speak, and I said, so that's another thing Annie was saying, just putting yourself forward for things. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, the next day I was like, what am I doing?
Why have I done this? That is me. I swear.
Are you crazy?
Why are you
Like,
doing this?
Yeah. And I said, but no matter what, I'm going to do it. And then I'm just there praying, like, I'm praying constantly, the Our Father. I'm constantly doing it all the way up until they give the mic to me. And then I have to introduce myself. And then I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to, confidence. I'm just going to act like I own this position, even though I was shit scared. Like, so, and it was great. It was wonderful. And I made so many different connections being in the green room with other speakers. And that was such a beautiful experience for me. And that's obviously helped me to then do, like, the TV appearance and then the radio, all these things where my gut is like, oh, I want to swear so badly.
This one got a potty mouth. I forgot. Let it out. Just let it out.
My gut's like, bitch, you can't do this. And then I'm like, but I've said this to myself before, and I clearly can. So let's see how it goes. And I'm just going to pretend like I can do this and see how it goes.
No
so
one
confidence.
knows you can't, other than
This is it. Good point. No one knows I can't. Other than you make
Exactly.
it.
You know, so you touched on something as well, and it's that, you know, that little voice in your head. One of the things that I've recently, maybe over the last year, really tried to do with that little voice in my head, understand that it's not necessarily me, and detaching myself from that voice, because that voice will talk you out of so many things. And just understanding, okay, no, I'm here, and I'm here for a reason. These thoughts are happening, they're very natural, but they don't need to dictate,
define me
or dictate my actions. And it was a book actually that I read by a guy called Mo Goddard. It's called Soul for Happy, and it talks about that voice in your head and understanding the distinction, and also thinking about, like, ancient philosophy as well, talking about the self, the I, all that kind of thing, but understanding that we don't have to be controlled by that fearful voice. And for me, that's been a game changer, because that voice can torment you.
And you know,
very true.
It can give you a mindset of complacency where you're like, I don't need to do that. up. I'm just gonna chill. Actually, that's more stress in my life. Let me just pass. I know what you mean completely.
It's so true.
So many times I'm just like, I don't need to do it. But I'm similar. You wouldn't think it because people say, oh, but you're really confident. I'm really not. I just force myself into positions.
Definitely.
Like no matter what. And it always boils down to what are you going to be getting of this situation? So you want to get the maximum, put yourself out there. That's how you're going to get the maximum. I remember being on stage one time. I was doing like a marketing event at work, and like everyone knows, like I work in a medical institute, and the only black person, typical, it's nothing new. About 3,000 people in the audience, all white, German, Italian, all from different places, right? I'm there presenting on marketing, I literally stopped, and there was this really like well-known surgeon that was on the stage, and I said, they asked me a question, I kid you not, I went blank. I literally just went,
been there.
Hold on a second. I went, hold on a second. Can we take a selfie? Turn to the surgeon. Literally, we were just like on the stage in front of thousands of people, and we just took a selfie. After that moment, I answered the question like it was nothing. Yeah. Everybody came up to me, Jane, you're amazing. How could you come up with that? How did you do that? How did you? We need to clone you, didn't? Everyone's coming. Oh, can you come to the States and do something? They took me to California. They took me to this. They took me to Miami. They all just wanted to use my expertise in presenting. And I was like, I don't have no expertise in presenting. But if I didn't put myself out there, God wouldn't have presented me all those opportunities.
But then it just shows you, like, if you just be your authentic self.
Yeah, this is
just
it.
Because there's no one like you.
This is it.
Yeah, that is your secret sauce. The fact that you just made light of that situation and you were just doing your thing. They were like, oh, this is refreshing, you know, that kind of thing.
Like, did you rehearse that? I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, what you don't know is I forgot my work. Yeah. I talk about some hip replacement.
Style it out. Yeah.
But they don't know. Only I know. So
that's the thing. I think for me as well, I make sure I affirm myself all the time. I just tell myself, Jane, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, you know what, you are a yoke breaker. You know, you're there to bring millions into your generation. You're there to be a blessing onto others. I just big myself up like that, you know, and then I'm like, come on, girl. You better. I just, you know, and the thing is, I've learned to do that because I realized that growing up, and even because I got married very young as well, you rely on the person that you're closest to affirm you and to make you and to give you confidence and to fulfill everything that's lacking within you, and that's not fair on that person. You need to be that for yourself. You know, and I've learnt to do that. So now it's almost as if to say, like how with my dairy intolerance, if I hear something which is against my mindset or isn't what God believes I am, I just won't even accept it. Even if my husband be like, you're difficult, I'll be like, no, I'm not. I'm not having it. And that's how I am now. So if my team know, they can never say no. I don't ever want to hear no. Give me another solution. Let's like debate. Let's like explore solutions. But I don't want to hear no, because no means end of, and I don't believe in that. So I'm very much open-minded. Very much, you know, I love me first. I love me. I know I can do all things once I'm empowered to do it, and why not? Like that's how I feel now. Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting? I was just thinking as you were talking, like we're all in positions of somewhat power, right? So influence in terms of in your day-to-day role, it's easy to manage yourself, but when you're actually managing other people, so getting other people to do things that you would have to do in the way that you need it done is difficult, right? But people are just like, oh yeah, I can manage myself. I can put myself in an uncomfortable thing to build confidence. But when you have to do it for other people, so it's like, right, how are you going to make that person get the confidence that they need in order to execute that? That's a different level.
Yeah, and I think I've been in those type of situations where, for example, during COVID, and we went through a lot in the healthcare industry, and I had to come to work every day and put my big girl pants on and steer a ship that I didn't know how was going to survive, you know, and I had to have a poker face and make sure that my team thought everything was going to be fine. I didn't have a clue, you know, I didn't have a clue what was going on. But you have to, when you're on leadership, you can't display what you feel.
Exactly.
You know, you have to be the calm. If everyone's looking at you and
for the guidance,
for the direction, for the strategy, and you're there flapping around. And don't get me wrong, I'm very honest and I'm transparent in terms of, guys, this is a tricky time of year, or season that we're going through. Let's all get our heads together. But I'm not going to let them see me sinking. I'm not going to. And that's the same for my children. You know, I can be that vulnerable to my husband, to my mum, to my siblings. But when you're in a position of leadership, there has to be some sort of composure
Yeah,
as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
What kind of obstacles do you guys face then? Obviously, you're trying to be intentional, be accountable to the goals that you've set. What kind of obstacles arise when you're trying to accomplish them?
Good question. I think I might have addressed it earlier in terms of that voice and sometimes that self-doubt. I'm very similar to yourself, strong believer of affirmations and actually speaking out loud how amazing and fearfully made I am. But I would say that's probably one of them, and also the environment and the context that you're in, because certain times you're trying to pursue a goal or to execute something and this is going wrong and that's going wrong and that's... But for me personally, it's so weird. In those moments of uncertainty, it tends to be the time when I thrive. Yeah, it's the time when I push myself. Very exhausting by the time I get to the end of it. But it's not that I don't like stress. I don't enjoy stress. But I think those kinds of situations when life is getting real, it makes you realize how more important it is to pursue this and to execute this and to achieve this when life is getting tough, because in those moments things can break you completely. So I would say those are probably so life happening and that voice of doubt.
Completely.
I was just thinking, because when I struggle the most, I think about, okay, how do I overcome that? First of all, I have to identify. Yeah. Okay, we're taking an L here. You know, we're at a low point right now. Yeah. Nick, let's recognise that first and foremost. Yeah. But what do we do when we're at our lowest? What do you say to people over and over again? This is now the time to start practicing it. So you can't go out and say to people, cling on to your faith and pray harder, and you're like scrambling. So it was like, this is it, double down. So the moment I feel anxious and I feel like things are getting away from me and I like to have control of a situation and things are not going my way, which is all these different obstacles that can come. So you can say, you know, what kind of obstacles? There's loads. Anything can happen. You know, life happens to various people. Financial obstacles. You know, you think you're going to get a certain type of contract or money that's coming in, and that doesn't come in, and then it rolls over to something else. Or, for example, you know, relationship issues that then just throw you off course, or health issues that throw you off course again. There's so many different things that can be an obstacle. But the moment that happens, I have to be able to identify it's an L. It's a low point right now. It's not always going to be highs. Yeah. So what are you going to do? How are you going to show up? How are you going to present at this stage when you're down like here? Because when you're up like here, we know what you're like. You're, you know, you're all singing and, you know, God is great. And, you know, but what are you like down here? How are you, you know, do you know what I mean? And that's the part when I'm like, so maybe that's me championing myself and rallying myself up, because I think that's something I've learned only recently. Only recently, and when I say recently, in the last 2 or 3 years. And I remember there was a time in particular, my sister actually helped me with this, identify that, one, there's going to be low points, but what do you do in those low points? And I was going for a property, and because of something outside of my control, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get that property. And I came to her scrambling. I was distraught, crying. And my sister held me and was like, okay, what are we going to do about it though? And I was like, let's pray. So she actually took control of the situation and said, let's pray. And what she prayed for in that moment was for, Father, if this is a door being closed, it's because you want to open another one for my sister. And we trust and believe in everything that you have for us in our lives. And as she was praying, I started believing in the things that she was praying about. And it gave me a sense of peace automatically. And I thanked her, and I will never forget her for that, because what she did was change my mindset completely. And since then, that maybe, I think maybe 2021, maybe, where in that lowest moment, and I don't know what to do, she steered me in the right direction. And since then, when I have low moments, I know exactly what to do. And it so happened that the property that I would eventually got was 10 times better. 10 times bigger.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The blessing was crazy.
Yeah.
Do you know
I remember you saying this to me. So that
me.
same story,
Oh,
when
did
I was going through
okay.
the similar situation,
Yeah.
you told me this story and it did the exact same thing that it did
God.
for you, for me.
Glory be
And
to
you
God
know,
then.
glory be to God. And look now. So, you know.
Yeah.
So,
And that's it. So that's
yeah.
it. I always remember that. And I'm like, okay, we're at a low time.
is so
What are we
Yeah.
going to do
Yeah.
right now?
God is so good.
being in that position, it's not necessarily what kind of obstacles can you face, because I've named a few things that we just go through, life challenges, and we all have different things at different times to us that will bring us down.
Yeah.
Mine might not necessarily be yours.
Yeah,
Do you get what I mean? But the more important thing is how do you present yourself, show up for yourself in those moments? And that's the more where you've got to be, one, identify, okay, this is what's happening. It happens.
Yeah.
It's fine, you know, but what am I going to do from now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
very
with
much
that,
so.
recognizing as well, which is really important, that things come in seasons.
Yeah.
And only 4 things promised, maybe 5 including taxes, but about 4 things promised in your life: your birth, your death, bad days and good days. So when you're going through that bad season, you are promised a good day. And that helps me get through those dark moments that, okay, this is all temporary and I
Yeah.
can't spoil everything.
It's too shall
Do you know what I mean? I
pass.
can't
It's too
spoil
shall
all
pass,
of my
yeah.
life because of this one situation.
Yeah.
I have to keep moving because this will pass. This
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. It's so true. Like, honestly, I'm going to bring it back to a level ground, because I was saying to Anya the other day that I was so frustrated by my manager, right? I work in my role. Oh, my God. Like, sometimes I'm like, your management, which is fantastic, but you actually have no understanding of the day-to-day that goes on in the business. So with my job, it's like I manage my own business, and I have a manager that has to just report back how the business is going. That's your role. Cool. She don't understand. But then I was saying to Anya, my frustrations, and I was like, I very rarely allow other people to bring me out of my emotion, because I'm like, whatever's happening is happening for a reason. God's in control. That's it. It's not my beef. Any battle that comes, the battle that God's going to give you back, I'm sorry, I can only pray for you after that. Do you know what I mean? But then I said to myself, I self-reflected. And I think for me, when I have an obstacle or challenge, always self-reflect, because there's only certain things in your control. You can control yourself. You can't control how somebody else behaves. That's not
100%.
your... So where I was like, okay, my manager's come and she's impacted me negatively, fine. Then I said to myself, she told me in the past that she was selfish.
And now you've seen it.
I said, if a snake comes and bites me, and I say, snake, why did you bite me? And it says, I'm a snake. Why would I be surprised?
Yeah.
So I self-reflected and said, well, aren't you stupid? Why would you allow that to upset you or get you as angry as you got when she told you what she was? And at that moment, I said, God, you know, immediately he delivered me. She's not my manager anymore.
Oh, wow.
I don't have a manager now.
Yeah.
I report to the director, and God, he said, my daughter, don't worry. And I kid you not. So the things that you guys saying, prayer, self-reflect, it's all there. All the answers are there for us. So if anyone's going through anything, honestly, self-reflect, pray, speak to people.
And that's a good point, because
Yeah.
God also, he works for other
Works
people.
people,
So that conversation that we had,
exactly.
it was
Yes.
beneficial for you, but it was so
100%.
beneficial for me
this is
also.
it.
So
Love
yeah,
you,
I know, I
sis.
love you too. It was a brilliant convo, about
Honestly,
a long hour.
yes,
Yeah, it
Do you
was-
think
was a
it
nice
takes a certain type of person or woman? Because we're all similar, and different at the same time, And even when we came together, we noticed straight away our similarities. And when I speak to your partners as well, they were like, "Oh, she's just like you. Like, she's just like, you guys will be great because you know, exactly the same kind of thing." Do you think it takes a certain type of person then to be accountable, to hold yourself to account in order to get things done?
You need integrity, I think, because you need to be able to acknowledge where your weaknesses are and your strengths are, and there's areas of improvement. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, sometimes we're all in that position where we can't, we have a warped perception of ourselves sometimes. I don't know where it comes from, where it stems from, but there are a lot of people, I'm not going to say a gender, but there are a lot of people that have this warped self-perception. You're smiling. This warped self-perception. I think when you overcome that element and you're prepared to be open and be vulnerable, even if you're just looking at yourself in the mirror, that's probably where you'll see the most growth.
I think as well, you need to be somebody who is, ambitious, but you also have to be prepared to, you know, come with the challenges, like overcome challenges. You have to be an overcomer.
Yes.
So on an everyday basis, you are going to have challenges that you're going to have to try and overcome.
Yeah.
There are more bad days than there are good. Sorry, guys, it's true.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately.
Yeah. So you're going to have to really think, okay, this is not going the way I'd planned it, but how do I overcome? How do I, you know, because for me, someone who's in leadership isn't someone who has all the answers, but you have to know where.
Yes, to get the
Get the information, get the answers, get the solutions. And so as somebody who is accountable, you have to be results driven. You have to be, you know, you have to have the North Star at the end of your head that this is what I want us to achieve. This is where we're going. And I don't know how we're going to get there, but I will make sure that we do, with the help of God, obviously. But you're going to have to be results driven. You're going to have to be very intentional. You're going to have to be very, very focused. Sometimes you have to be tunnel vision. That has to be it. I'm sorry. So, I mean, a lot of people I speak to who are like, oh, you know, can you mentor me? Can you help me do this? And it's like, do you stick at anything? It doesn't work out and you just jump to something else. I'm sorry, that's not how it works.
A lot of people now just want sloppy success.
Yeah. Well,
they want the results, but did you put in any of the work?
Well, I think we live in a microwave generation. Everybody wants instant gratification. People don't like delayed gratification, but for me, it's a real thing, and it builds character as well. Yeah, it builds character, perseverance. So. Those for me are very key characteristics of somebody who is accountable and ultimately is going to see success in whatever they're working on.
So where do you get that from then? Because I'm thinking about the younger generation now, and I've had conversations with like different employers, and they're like to me, yeah, it's the same for me as well. I can't get them to work. I just can't get them to come to work and do their job. And if you're like, you know, you have to come to work. Why wouldn't you? And they're like, oh, you know,
your boyfriend and you had an argument, still go to work.
It's like,
you went raving yesterday, still go to work.
Well, I think, you know what, they need more examples. They need more role models. They need to see what success looks like.
I actually don't agree with that. I think if you go on the internet, there are so many examples. I think right now things have just become so easy.
Definitely.
You know,
but they need people that look like us. But I only touch on that and only because I want you to elaborate a bit more, but just not right now. I want you guys to join us in our next episode because we're going to be talking about role models. We're going to just extensively discuss what a real role model should look like or does look like in today's society. So join us on our next episode. Take care.
Bye.